It's Movement Power. Wanted to do a quick video on the squat range of motion and eccentric for the squat, for parkour athletes specifically, because I've seen a couple of posts recently discussing both of those things. The first being a post from Callum where he spoke about, full range of motion on the squat being something that you should be doing. And I think that's, in both cases, both of these posts, and I'll go on to Lorena's afterwards about the eccentric phase, they're a bit one size fits all. The issue that I've found for full range of motion with the squat is that at the bottom, in the hole, we call it the hole at the bottom of the squat, it actually rebounding out of that lower part, that shifts force to the anterior of the leg, so the patellar tendons and the quads. And if you're a person that has overuse injuries, or if you're sort of susceptible to them, doing more of that, doing more things that will shift the force to the patellar tendon and to the anterior part of the leg, it's not something you want to be doing. You want to be learning to use the posterior chain, which is why I would get athletes to sort of have a wider footing on the ground, have the bar a bit lower on their back, and also to cut the depth, especially if they have overuse injuries. So if you're talking about patellar tendonitis in particular, or quadriceps tendonitis, then athletes should look at possibly reducing the range of motion on the squat whilst they are still suffering from the effects of those injuries. Obviously the aim is to do a full range of motion squat, but my athletes, I don't get them to do that when they're in their strength phase. Parallel is the goal, because that to me is a full squat. Just below parallel, that's fine. And if they're injured, I'll get them to even cut depth at parallel, so they might just be aiming to get just above, because we're trying to get them better for parkour. I don't want to injure them doing strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning is to supplement parkour, so that's always the aim with that. In terms of the eccentric phase, what I would say for that, now I think Lorena posted a lot of articles and videos sort of speaking about how important a fast eccentric phase is, and again, you should be looking to do that quickly if your focus is on improving speed, but that's not always what we will be working on with strength and conditioning. So there are other phases that I work with. So we have like a structure phase where we build an athlete's potential and structure for producing force. Then we have a strength phase where we actually peak that potential and we actually get up to the point where they are producing more force. Then we look at getting faster. So those two, we're actually working on controlling the eccentric phase, because you want to be, especially if these athletes, as I said before, if they are suffering from overuse injuries, you don't want to be bombing down into that bottom position of the squat, because all you're going to do is actually mimic the quick force transference to the anterior part of the leg, which is what causes the injury in the first place. So what I'm going to do now is just show you a few examples of different exercises you can do to try to avoid pain and try to get stronger if you have an overuse injury, or if you have anything that's limiting your ability to squat to full depth. Again, squatting full depth is the best thing you can do as an athlete if you're healthy and if you're not susceptible to overuse injuries, and also if you're not using weight that's heavy enough to pose a risk to your health. So I'm going to show you a few now. The first being just the wide low bar squat. This is a standard in powerlifting, generally speaking, because people find that they can actually move more weight. And this is actually the technique that we use when we get to the sort of the peak of the strength phase with my athletes. That's what I use. Any other time we're kind of using high bar, full range of motion, but when we're looking to really produce the most amount of force, load the body as much as we can with weight, we are looking to reduce the range of motion, just to keep the athlete safe really, and also so that they can lift a heavier amount of weight, because that again will produce more adaptation and actually get them stronger skeletally, as well as like muscular skeletally as well. The second, which is a really good exercise if you are injured, acutely injured, if you have a tendonitis injury, you can cut the depth really high here. This is a wide box squat. Again, this has been used in like a quick powerlifting to mimic squatting in a suit, but actually I found if I have an acute injury, to avoid transferring like forces to the injured, like to the knee, essentially, what I'm doing is I'm mimicking almost a sumo deadlift in the way I'm setting up the squat, but then I'm still kind of top loading the spine and mimicking sort of a jumping or a landing pattern as well. So I think this is a very useful lift to try to do. Those are the main exercises I would say, I've just put forward to say are useful as well. Again, control the eccentric, keep a slow eccentric if you are at risk or you're using a heavier weight. But if you're using a lighter weight trying to get faster and more powerful after having gotten stronger, then yeah, by all means do a fast eccentric. Thanks very much.